So, all right, let's do a compressed session on what how to convey a message, right? Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, so hold on to your hats. So, um, any message is based on any message is based on a sound logic, right? If it's illogical, it doesn't hold up, right? So the
Mhm.
message is based on some sort of a pyramid where there's a solid foundation of facts, hard facts, with some arguments that lead up to this idea, a simple idea. Most messages that succeed um, have this type of structure in them, uh, right? They call that supporting facts. So once you have this pyramid of idea, um, holistically speaking, I mean, high level, like where you are, then you start to get into the details of that. So the idea becomes a sentence with supporting arguments, which are quick sentences as well, the one-liners usually, right? Nothing too complicated, and you need at least um, 3 supporting facts. These are rule of thumbs, right? This is not a hard science. So this is very structured for us engineers, right? This is what's helped me build stories and narratives, and I'm
So,
go ahead.
so just to add to this, that I could definitely get behind, but and to throw a monkey wrench into the conversation,
Sure.
uh, it to me like depending on how professional the environment is or how receptive people are.
We're getting there.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, go
We're
ahead.
getting there. Yeah. So we're not at the audience yet. So we're more around what is your message? What are you trying to say? And who you're trying to say to is going to come after, right?
Hmm.
For
Hmm.
example, let's say you're in a factory. I'm trying to remember my first serious job. You're in a wood factory and you have to convince everybody to wear a helmet or safety gloves or safety glasses or whatever.
Hmm.
What's the message? Wear your freaking helmet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Delivery, right? Yes.
so wear your freaking helmet, guys. So that's the message. It's like, okay, supporting. So what is the idea? The idea is that you just got a memo from the top. It's not a real story, right? It's a
No,
real
no, no,
job I
no. But
had, but
it fits the conversation. Yes.
so okay, you just got the memo from the VP of somebody super important as health and safety board, sent to your small factory somewhere in New Brunswick, where I used to work, and then it goes like, hey, you're gonna have to enforce helmet and basic safety procedures because XYZ reason, and starting now, and you need to do it this morning. Fine. Then you got about 15 minutes because you have a stand-up meeting at 8:30 where everybody rounds up and just decides what's the maintenance we have to do today. So you got about 15 minutes to get your idea together. How do I convince these guys, my colleagues, and everybody to, put a helmet and wear some safety gloves or whatever? Um, well, you need supporting arguments, right? Well, one comes from corporate. So therefore, I got a memo, and in a memo there's some consequences if we don't do it, and it's documented, and we're going to update the policy. First argument,
That's authority, by the way. That's one
argument
of the
number
three.
1, it's compliance. You're arguing, guys, we have to do it. I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Well, but we have to do it. Fine. Okay, cool. Second argument, it's like, by the way, not only do we have to do it, it's good for you. That's a good argument, right? So you want to keep your 10 fingers, you don't want any scars and all that. So, and then you put on some facts around like, there's been X amount of accidents last year. We've had about 3 in the factory this year. And look at Joey, he lost an eye. I think safety's good. And then the other idea, I'm running out of ideas. I just can't tell. This is very tricky. So the other idea could be, you know what? We're gonna have a context, a concours contest across all factories that the maximum compliance level on safety, and we're gonna have inspectors coming in so that everybody, if we meet 100% of conformity
You get a
requirements,
bonus.
you guys get like a 1% or whatever, or a free time Friday afternoon off. So you get a bonus, right? So this is a you know if you comply, you're going to get a bonus, and by the way, it's good for you, and that's what you have to do. So really quickly, that's your idea supporting argumentation and facts supporting those arguments. So this is your hidden kind of pyramid.
Hmm.
We haven't gotten to, like, how do we say this? You know, we have an audience, right? So, all right. So the second thing you're gonna do, uh, well, first is get your ideas right. Get your ideas together. If you're not right in the head, if your ideas aren't well supported and it's confusing even for yourself, do this and then figure out who you're gonna talk to. So getting the message right is the first part, and then the second part is the audience, and this is where it gets complicated. But I use, again, I use two tools to figure out the audience. The first one is the one I've just shown before. So receptiveness. Are they receptive? Are they knowledgeable? How receptive will there be? Let's say I have 10 employees. Are they going to be here? Here, it's like, well, they're half of it, they don't want to do it, and they don't know why we have to do it. And the other half of it, they want to do it, but they don't know, let's say, how to do it. Let's say there's a special safety procedure for locking down machines. Of course, I don't want to get eaten up by a machine in a sawmill, but I don't know how to do a lockdown procedure on the machine. Nobody showed it to me. I want to do it,
Hmm.
but I don't know. So, um, your call ends in 10 minutes. Upgrade to Google. Really? That is so funny. They're all doing it.
Oh man, it's happened again, eh?
They're,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things. Oh, anyways,
I think and I'll add to that a little bit.
go ahead.
One thing that's kind of worked for me in the past um, is a bit more of an unstructured conversation when it comes to different things that potentially you want to introduce. Unstructured conversations gives the idea that people can participate in the conversation, right? When people don't feel like they can participate, they don't feel like they have a choice. They're far less receptive when it comes to change, right? So what do you think about that?
Yeah. Okay. I think we're in this style business, like how you do it. So we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in the audience, you're getting to the style, which is the next part. So in the audience, you want to figure out like where they are and how knowledgeable, and
Hmm.
then you come up with a strategy based on that. And your
Hmm.
strategy will be based essentially then on culture and personalities, like who's in front of you. So if it's you're only with Joey, right? And Joey, who's lost 3 fingers, got a huge scar on the side of his head, and still doesn't want to wear a helmet, you have a different type of discussion because he's not receptive, he's fully knowledgeable. So now, but then what if you have 100 people and Joey's in there? So you can't just talk to Joey, you have to talk to everybody. So the style will you have to adjust to the audience, right? So a lot of the additional thing about knowing your audience is knowing the culture, both like people and work, because the work culture and there's also
Well, there's
proper culture.
there's uh, country culture, there's
Yeah,
work
yeah.
culture.
So there's standards, right? So maybe if you're in Spain or Italy, they're gonna go like, "Hey, I'm a man. I don't need to wear a helmet." It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I can say that I'm half Italian and a third Spanish. So maybe it's very macho and they don't want to wear helmets because they think it's like no, I don't need that stuff. So there's culture and there's specific profiles like disc
Hey,
profile.
by the way, the graph now makes a lot more sense to me. In the overall architecture of what you're building, it's nice. It's nice to see.
Yeah, because it that helps you build your strategy, which is
Yeah.
the last thing. The last thing you do is you figure out, like, again, there's culture, there's profiles, there's also context. So the context could be there's been a huge accident, 3 factories down, and they know that person who got hurt. It's like there's a
Mhm,
context you can leverage in your strategy later on,
mhm.
right? Um,
Or in a negative way, let's say someone in the team has had a bad family accident and you're not aware of it, and you're presenting this whole thing and presenting it to them,
there's always things you don't
right?
know. Yes.
If you're not in on that conversation, it's a different thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and the last thing is really, it's not the last thing. It's just that's my homemade thing, right? So the last thing I put there is rapport, right?
Yeah.
If I've been working 20 years in the business, my strategy, right? Strategy will be
Sorry, I can't
completely different.
I can't I can't see them properly. So culture, what was the one
I
on the
had a
top right?
horrible writing. Culture, the profiles of the people. So
Profiles, like whether they're VP, whether they're engineering, whether they're
no, disc profile, dominant, interactive socializer, steady relator, and cautious thinkers. So this is like a easy thing to Google.
Mhm,
DISC disc.
mhm.
It's one of those tools. It's one of the mostly used tools because it's the simplest tool. Simplest. It's yeah, it's the easiest one to apply when you're trying to figure out who you're talking to. If you're talking to dominant directors, that's the way they call that profile. They're movers and goers, right? Decision makers, and they don't have time for anything. All they do is, get things done. They never look back. You got interactive socializers, guys kind of like me who are always, kind of looking forward to talking to somebody, getting to know people. So they're really relational, right? You have steady
Mhm.
planners who are also relational, but everything needs to be planned. They're organizers. Everything's organized, right?
So this is like a mild Myers-Briggs kind of assessment.
Oh, Myers-Briggs, I don't like it. So,
Now, I don't think anybody does, to be honest, but
oh man, that was
that's why I gave it a good this,
yeah, 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 yeah. So the disc is really DISC. The right side of the circle, they're people driven, right? The left side are process driven, right? So that's the way you do it. And essentially, you have dominant directors, interactive socializers have something in common here. Like if you're thinking, I'm trying to think of personalities, and I can't think of anybody famous
No,
right now.
it's
But
okay.
let's say Robin Williams, for example, is here. He's a in this area, interactive socializer, steady planner, because steady planners like to keep things on an even keel, right? They they thrive where everybody's in harmony. So they're people oriented, and they actually do their very best so everybody gets along, right? So when you think of famous people, and I can't think of any other in Robin Williams right now, but this is where you kind of plug them in, and it's really a helpful tool to come up with the best strategy for your message to say, wear your helmets, guys. So if and then you have, obviously, in your strategy, you have to define the higher or the better rapport you have, the easier in the strategy you will you will allow yourself to be informal and authentic.
Mhm.
If like you have to step up to the mic, there's 1,000 employees and you have to tell them, wear your helmets, and it's your day one on the job and you're the new
Yeah,
director of health and safety,
exactly.
you can't come off willy-nilly and like, hey, how's everybody doing? It's like, who is this guy? you know so you have to, I don't want to say not be authentic, but you have to do a different strategy, be a little more professional, a little more dry. If your authentic profile is an interactive socializer, you have to be cautious,
Mhm,
as you're trying to be neutral in your profile, not to take any chances. The more you
mhm.
have rapport, the more authentic you can allow yourself to be without breaking that relationship with the audience.
I
um,
couldn't agree more.
so it's I love your comment about um, informal. I think you used the word conversational informal. uh,
Informal conversation
Yeah, yeah, and
to
how to
make it
present
more.
ideas, because I think that's a strategy that you define based on a situation where you have established rapport, and maybe your profile is somebody who's maybe definitely on the people side, and probably more of an interactive socializer and a steady planner. You might be kind of here in between ish, but it's slight nudge on the interactive socializer.
Yeah, I think we really wrapped up. You, well, at least you wrapped up the you went full circle. I'm really happy with that. I sorry if I wasn't as patient to see the end point, because I really like it now. It makes a lot of sense. And the combination of culture, profile, context, and rapport is exactly it. Spot on, right? Um, that in itself is the pipeline for your message. And even at the highest level of any kind of organization, people they don't take it into consideration. And hey, it's invaluable for
Mm.
any kind of situation, right? Regardless of if it's helmets or if it's multi-billion-dollar mergers, right?
It
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter,
matter.
no matter what the idea. And the cool thing about this is that no matter how great you do of a job, if this isn't locked in, if you don't have
Yeah,
rapport, everything else
you
just,
might as well not present.
yep,
You
yeah.
you have to check them off. You kind of have to check them off. You kind of have to be like, do I understand my culture? Do I understand my profile? Do I understand my context? Do I understand? Do
Hmm.
I have the right amount of rapport to be able to sell this?
Yeah.
Right. And if the answer to that is no, ooh, you know,
There are tricks.